Guys, I still can't believe it. Han Solo was dead and was a clone in the original trilogy the whole time. It it's the most mind-blowing thing to ever happen in Star Wars.
How you get so big getting food of this kind?
Okay, so yeah, I'm back from my second viewing of Solo, A Star Wars Story. I still have popcorn nasty all over my shirt. And this is going to be spoilers. So, like, spoilers start here, and you really shouldn't spoil this film for yourself. And if you're sitting there, like, now kind of worried because you're like, but I thought Solo was supposed to be a fun popcorn flick, you know, why don't I want to spoil it for myself? Well, I said this in my spoiler-free review, which if you haven't seen the movie yet and you want to watch a review, I have a spoiler-free review over here. And what I said in that was, it's not that there's a thing in the movie that's going to be like, they killed Snoke halfway through. You know, it's not that I'm talking about that. It's that there are so many beautiful moments in this film, and if you get those beautiful moments spoiled for you, I think you're going to regret it. But with that said, like I said, spoilers start now. I'm just going to go for it. So, Solo, A Star Wars Story. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I had a lot of fun, and I still had fun the second time around. It wasn't like the new car smell was what got me through the movie the first time. I didn't necessarily profoundly love it more the second time, but considering I already liked it, it's this new weird thing where if I say that the newest movie isn't my favorite, that somehow I'm being negative, and I don't like that that's now this assumption that every new movie should automatically be our favorites. But it's not my favorite. That's weird to me that that's a thing I feel that I need to say. Another thing that bothers me is I feel the need to say it's not a perfect movie, because freaking perfect movies are normal. Like, this is, again, this thing as reviewers we all have to do now. Like, this is dumb that I have to say it, but I'm going to say it. It wasn't perfect. That way no one can yell at me and say that I'm just worshiping the movie or something. The movie was a lot of fun, and the movie was everything I wanted it to be. So I was super pro Alden Ehrenreich being casted as Han Solo. I wanted him when he was on the short list, and he didn't let me down. I can't tell you if he's gonna endear himself to you if you didn't like him as a casting choice, but I just didn't see a problem. No, he's not Han Solo from A New Hope, but the character of Han Solo isn't Han Solo in A New Hope. And I think a lot of the people who are kind of saying that they didn't like Han's portrayal or didn't think the acting was very good, I kind of wonder, is their problem the actual acting of Alden Ehrenreich, or is their problem Han Solo? Is their problem with the acting of Han Solo actually that the character of Han Solo is in love with a girl and everything he's doing is to protect this girl and rescue this girl and find her, and that he's not out on his own? Because that's what happens. The opening of the film is him trying to get his love Kira off of Corellia, and when it doesn't succeed, he spends the next 3 years. He spends 3 years on his childhood love trying to get back to her, and that is not Han Solo we're used to seeing. So is Ehrenreich's portrayal of Han cheesy? Or is Han just kind of cheesy in this movie? Because to me, Ehrenreich acted perfectly. Anytime there was something that was being conveyed in the scene, I felt like he was conveying the character he was supposed to convey in the way he was supposed to convey it. Now, if you don't like the character he was conveying, that's totally fine. I like that Han kind of started off good. I like that he started off as this hopeful person, because that makes more sense. Like, he wasn't born an infant cynic and then grew up his whole life and then finally his heart melted through the events of A New Hope. Not enough happens in A New Hope for him to go from being the scoundrel to the guy that comes back and saves the rebellion. I hear that a lot. Like, we didn't get to know Val long enough to care. Well, you don't get to know Han Solo well enough in A New Hope to have him be the hero by the end of the movie, unless he was always kind of a hero. So to me, this characterization of Han makes total sense. So that brings me to my next point. Val and Rio, Jon Favreau's character, I want to say his name's Rio, I probably have that super wrong. I don't want to make this review too much of me respond to other people's reviews, because that's not interesting. But what I've been hearing from other people is that we didn't get enough time to care about Val before her death for it to be important. I don't feel that way at all. I feel like I had plenty of time to get to know Val. Not entirely. I would love it if Val was in a book or a comic, or if we ever get another TV series that takes place in between the two Lucas trilogies, to have her show up. I don't have enough of Val in that I never want to see her again, but I felt like I got enough of Val to understand her character in this film. Again, I don't want to play the, well, they did it too kind of game, but if you look at A New Hope, do we get enough time with Obi-Wan to really care about Obi-Wan? Like, all the weight and gravity of Obi-Wan comes later, really, and it's just kind of like backwards nostalgia for liking the character. We spent a lot of time with Val, and she showed her character a lot more than Beckett. I mean, Beckett's character was basically, he's good at spinning guns on his fingers. Beckett exudes character because he's Woody Harrelson. Val has character moments. She's sassy, she's witty, she's telling Beckett what's up, and she's swinging around from wires. Beckett has Han and Chewie to back him up, but Val's just off doing her own thing all by herself. She don't need nobody to back her up. That to me, it is character. And it's like, why does she matter to Beckett? Well, she matters to Beckett because they're freaking together. Like, I didn't need to go on their first date with them for me to know that they matter. They're together and they have plans for retiring on a planet. Like, I understand that maybe you needed to see more, but if this movie was about Beckett and Val, I would completely agree that we didn't get enough time with them. But it's not about Beckett and Val, it's about Han Solo. So the point of Beckett and the point of Val as characters is how they relate to Han. Han is trying to figure out who he is. He's been off his home world for 3 years, thinking about his girl that he's still in love with, that he's left behind, and he meets this guy that he wants to be. He looks up to Beckett as the man he wants to become. This is a man who's his own person, who's off doing his own thing, and he doesn't follow anyone or any rules, and he's in charge, and he has the woman he loves by his side, and they fight together, and they do stuff together, and they have like a quirky, weird alien buddy with them. That's who Han wants to be. He wants Beckett to teach him how to spin the guns in his hands. He wants to become this guy. He is Rey looking up to Han Solo. He wants to become this person. Beckett needs Val because Han wouldn't have looked up to Beckett in the same way if Beckett was an insular character. If Beckett was, screw everybody, I don't need anybody, I can do it by myself, that wouldn't have resonated with Han. But because Han wants a life with a partner, Beckett having Val means he's going to look up to Beckett. So that's why Val matters as a character, because Val makes Beckett a character that Han wants to be. I mean, really, we get about as much time with Val as we get with L3, considering that L3 doesn't come into the movie until we meet Lando, and L3 also meets her untimely demise. And I'm not hearing anybody saying, well, I need more time to understand why L3 wants equal rights for droids. I just don't understand what she's doing. Another thing is Han Solo. Solo isn't his real last name. In fact, it's possible that Han doesn't even know his own last name, even though he seems to know who his father was. This bothered some people. It didn't bother me at all. There's been a long-running joke that the name Han Solo is funny because he's solo. Giving it this kind of in-universe origin was the same as, like, the flaw in the Death Star now has an in-universe origin. It kind of felt the same to me. And I kind of liked that it was just like a random Imperial who gave him his name. It's completely in the bounds of reality. I mean, here in America, we have this place called Ellis Island, where back in the day, all of the immigrants that traveled over the Atlantic Ocean came through Ellis Island, and if somebody couldn't pronounce their last name, they had it changed. It happened to my great-grandparents. Like, that's a thing that people do. So, like, for the Empire to just be like, well, you have to have a last name, so I'm just gonna give you this snarky one. That just felt real to me. As somebody who was concerned about how they were gonna handle Han Solo's name, because Bob Iger had long ago said that we were going to learn how Han Solo got his name, I thought they handled it perfectly. I also kind of want to address a thing I keep hearing a lot, is that this movie is safe. This is another thing that reviewers have to say all the time. We have to say if the movie's safe. It's Han Solo. We knew where the story was going to go. He wasn't going to die and end up a clone, guys. Like, it's what it is. And I don't know that anybody is really complaining that the movie is safe. I mean, maybe somebody is complaining that we picked Han Solo, who's a character that we have to make a safe movie with, And that's a perfectly legitimate thing to say. But yeah, the movie is pretty safe most of the time. The story of Han is the story we all know. If they didn't do that, there'd be riots. So I don't know. It's like saying Revenge of the Sith was really safe because it had Anakin turn to the dark side. Like, I don't really get why this is the thing we're talking about. This is the thing we're talking about. But where the movie isn't safe is in that cameo at the end. So, surprise, Darth Maul. I hope you watched the Clone Wars. Otherwise, you're gonna be so freaking lost, and it's kind of funny. I'm very anti-gatekeeping. I'm never gonna tell you that you have to watch the Clone Wars to be a real Star Wars fan. You don't. You can watch only Rogue One and love Rogue One, and that's the only Star Wars movie you have any interest in watching. You love Rogue One. You can be a Star Wars fan. As someone who's just like bleeds Star Wars, who's been talking to people who aren't just claiming that they're fans, but claiming that they're super fans and Star Wars is their favorite thing ever, but they'll never give the Clone Wars a try. I was really happy that it's like, well, too bad, because if you don't want to try Clone Wars, you're not going to understand the twist at the end of the movie. Or not twist, but, stinger at the end of the movie. And having Darth Maul was great. And it was Ray Park with Sam Witwer's voice, and it was just everything I could want. I was in a IMAX theater, and so the IMAX has really swanky seats that like recline and stuff. I'm sitting there at the end of the movie, and I'm like reclined, and all of a sudden I just start like crawling. I was like crawling out of my seat. I almost crawled up to the screen just to touch the face of Darth Maul. I was freaking out so much. It was so great to see him. That makes me really, really excited for where I think the films could go from here. Because, we've all been talking about, this is whose character I'd like to get an anthology film. I'd like so-and-so to get an anthology film. We got Bosk, a Star Wars story. It was like, that's never gonna happen. Except for they just put Darth Maul in it. Not just Darth Maul being in it, but he fits perfectly with where his story in Star Wars The Clone Wars leaves off. This was just so fulfilling and fun for me. And then obviously there's 9 million Easter eggs in it. It was kind of a surreal experience for me because I'm not used to going to something and not getting Star Wars references, but I was definitely not getting every single Star Wars reference that they said because I never read the Han Solo and Lando adventures. I didn't have a problem with that. It was great. I was just like, this is wonderful. There's so many things in it. They're really using the universe. And I liked how they use the Easter eggs. I like fan service, but I like my fan service to kind of have a point to it. So like the Ponda Bava Dr. Evazan scene on Jeddah, I don't like in Rogue One. It has no point other than to be like, he doesn't like you, and like finger wag and wink. It doesn't even make sense for them to be in the city of Jeddah because the city of Jeddah gets destroyed, and then you have to come up with this whole explanation about how they're like one of the 5 people that escaped the city of Jeddah before it blew up, and it just needlessly creates all of this other stuff just so you can have a wink and a nod. Whereas you can have Lando sit and record his diary talking about Sharu, which is from some obscure Lando book, and it works. It just works for the story, and you get it or you don't, and it doesn't matter. Or using Darth Maul. I think this was a fun adventure. I think it did everything it needed to do. I think it's safe in the way it was supposed to be and had to be, but bold in just how much of the expanded universe it used. And I think there's other ways where it's a lot more out there and a lot more new than we've had with other Star Wars films. I thought the writing was really well done. I thought the film was well constructed. There was no scene where I was like, why is this here? I liked the weirdness of Lady Proxima and like the worm lady and stuff. That just felt like something you would read in like a Han Solo's adventure novel back when stuff was strange. I've heard a couple people talking about the Kessel Run and how they kind of wish the Kessel Run was a bigger deal. I don't know. I like this. I like that the Kessel Run is just a thing that happened and then Han brags about it. And I also like that it's a thing where not everyone would believe that it even happened. Like, I don't know. I just like that. I liked L3 becoming a part of the Falcon, and it actually makes me kind of sad that Lando doesn't have the Falcon because then he's kind of separated from L3 in a way. I liked a lot with Kira. I don't know, I could keep going on, and I just don't have any strong complaints. I mean, my main complaint is Han Solo is not that interesting of a character to me in general, but that said, this was exceptionally well done for Han Solo. At the end of the day, I'm always going to be more interested in Yoda or in Obi-Wan or in Mace Windu because the prequel Jedi is like what I grew up with. But that's not a detriment to this movie, and that's not this movie's fault. But that I think I'm just gonna leave this review here for now, because otherwise I'm just gonna keep going, and I know as soon as I hit stop, I'm gonna think of 5 more things I wish I would have said. But make sure you're following us on Twitter at Port Haven Forums, and visit port-haven.com for more. Visit forums.port-haven.com, where we're having a discussion about this movie right now. Please leave me a comment if you want, and until next time, keep it real and fly casual.
Cooking can be fun.